The torchlight shook in the cold night wind. Across a silent battlefield somewhere in the Middle Ages, smoke drifted over broken shields, fallen banners, and armor still warm from the men who once wore it. A single rider moved through the fog, carrying a sealed message, a message that would change the destiny of continents. But before he reached the stronghold gate, he vanished. Horse found, saddle torn, no rider. Only the letter remained, buried half in the mud, a message holding secrets of kingdoms, alliances, and betrayals, the kind that could reshape the world. And just like that, history entered one of its darkest chapters, the world after ancient glory. Civilizations that once ruled the earth, Egypt, Greece, Rome, Persia, had risen like mountains and then cracked like sand. Now new powers were emerging, some born in the heat of deserts, some behind the walls of icy fortresses, some hidden in forests so deep that even sunlight struggled to enter. From East Asia to West Africa, from the Andes to the North Sea, humanity was building a world of trade, war, invention, and unstoppable migration. Yet even with all this growth, much of the world remained unknown to much of the world. And in that darkness, legends grew, the fall of empires, and the race to control knowledge. After the Western Roman Empire collapsed, Europe splintered into countless kingdoms. Records were lost. Roads turned to forests. Libraries burned. But the truth is, the world was not dark. Knowledge didn't vanish. It moved. It traveled to the Middle East, North Africa, Persia, India, and China, carried by scholars who refused to let human memory die. Baghdad scholars preserved Greek texts. Chinese engineers recorded new inventions. West African griots memorized lineages stretching back centuries. Mayan astronomers charted the stars with unmatched precision. Humanity was not standing still. It was rising, but rising into conflict, because wherever knowledge grew, power followed. The Silk Roads, threads that wove the world. Caravans crossed Central Asia, carrying silk, spices, books, and ideas. On these routes, a merchant from Venice could hear stories from a monk in Tibet, a warlord in Samarkand, or a healer from India. Along these roads moved gunpowder, paper money, new crops, new diseases, new maps, new ambitions. Empires competed fiercely to control these pathways. Some won, some broke under the pressure. Some simply disappeared without explanation. Entire trading cities swallowed by shifting sands, abandoned for reasons historians still debate. Storms? Raids? Trade collapse? Plagues? No one knows for certain, but their silence would echo for centuries. The rise of kingdoms and the shadow of war. Across Africa, great kingdoms emerged, Ghana, then Mali, then Songhai, building wealth from gold and trade routes that stretched longer than European kings could imagine. In East Asia, dynasties engineered wonders, canals longer than rivers, cities brighter than stars, bureaucracies more complex than any empire before them. Meanwhile, in Europe, power shifted violently. Castles rose, castles burned. Borders changed with every generation. Knights and kings fought over land so small that today it would barely fit inside a city. And behind every throne stood someone whispering, a minister, a scholar, a rival, a spy. Because in this age, battles were won not just with swords, but with secrets. The age of faith and the age of fear. Religion shaped kingdoms and united millions, but also sparked conflicts that would last centuries. Across continents, beliefs guided laws, art, science, and everyday life. Temples, mosques, churches, shrines, pilgrimage routes, monastic libraries. But faith also led to division. Crusades tore cities apart. Inquisitions hunted suspicion instead of truth. Schism split communities and families. People looked for meaning. Rulers looked for loyalty. And in a world of uncertainty, rumors spread faster than armies. Stories of lost relics. Whispers about forbidden books. Legends of hidden kingdoms across the seas. Some true, some imagined, some still unexplained. The Black Death, the world stops breathing. In the mid-1300s, something unseen traveled along the same trade routes that once brought prosperity. A plague. It moved silently from ship to ship, town to town, continent to continent. Within years, cities emptied, markets closed, fields went untended, families fled from one another, empires paused. Historians can measure the death toll, but they cannot fully measure the fear. People ask questions no one could answer. Where did it come from? Why now? Would the world end? In some regions, entire villages were abandoned, tools still on tables, food still in bowls, just like earlier disappearances in history, but on a scale far larger. The Black Death didn't only take lives. It changed the direction of history. Labor systems shifted. Feudalism cracked. Religious beliefs changed. New ideas began forming in the empty space tragedy left behind. And soon, something extraordinary happened, the spark of a new age. In Italy, scholars rediscovered ancient texts. Artists studied anatomy and perspective. Inventors experimented with metal, water, gears, and wind. The Renaissance began, but it wasn't a miracle. It was a result of centuries of knowledge preserved across many cultures: Greek, Roman, Persian, Arab, African, Indian, Chinese, now merging into one powerful force. Europe would rise quickly, driven by a hunger for wealth, discovery, and control. Yet knowledge alone didn't make this era peaceful. Invention carried danger. New weapons, new ships, new ambitions. And with these ambitions came conflict on a global scale. The age of discovery and the price of discovery, driven by competition and curiosity. Sailors crossed oceans once thought impossible. They found continents already home to millions of people with ancient cultures, cities, and knowledge systems of their own. The world was not empty. It was full, rich, connected, alive. Yet these encounters brought enormous change, often devastating. Trade expanded. Empires expanded. Disease expanded. Conflict expanded. Slavery expanded. It was an age of discovery for some and an age of destruction for others. And in the middle of it all were individuals. Explorers, merchants, rulers, captains, each trying to rewrite the story of the world in their favor. But the world was far too complex for any one empire to control. The forgotten kingdoms and the unanswered questions. Even during this time of global contact, many civilizations left behind riddles that historians still debate. Why were certain cities abandoned? Why did once great empires collapse so suddenly? Where did specific peoples migrate, and why? What secrets were lost when libraries burned or temples fell? How did advanced technology spread, vanish, and reappear centuries later? Not every question has an answer. Not every discovery has been made. Even today, archaeologists uncover artifacts that force textbooks to change. Pottery older than expected. Trade goods found thousands of miles from their origins. Manuscripts that challenge long-held assumptions. History is not fixed. It is a puzzle with missing pieces. And some of those missing pieces were deliberately hidden. The return to the vanished writer. And now, we return to that battlefield at the beginning of our story. The missing rider. The abandoned horse. The half-buried message. For centuries, historians try to trace the way around this single disappearance. Not because the rider was powerful, not because the kingdom was famous, but because the message he carried, the one he never delivered, held warnings of an alliance forming in the shadows. An alliance that would eventually ignite a war lasting generations. A war that shaped borders still in place today. The letter survived, but the truth about who sent it did not. Some documents were lost, some names erased, some motives buried under centuries of retellings. What happened to the rider? Bandits? A rival kingdom? Internal betrayal? A staged disappearance? Or something else entirely? Something political, planned, and precise? We may never know, but we do know this. His disappearance changed the fate of millions, and the world was about to enter a new age, one where power, knowledge, and rebellion would collide, where ideas would spread faster than armies, where the old world would crack open, and a new world would rise from its shadow. Cliffhanger ending of Chapter 3. As historians studied the surviving letter centuries later, they found something strange, a missing section cut cleanly from a parchment, a section that someone long ago didn't want anyone to read, but under the faint ink, under layers of time. A single line remained visible. A name that should not have existed in that era. A name that appeared in records across 3 continents, before vanishing from history completely. A name connected to every major shift of the medieval world.